I can't help but notice that stuff today. When I worked on staff at church, that was my pet peeve. I was constantly going out and picking up stuff, cleaning up stuff. Because the first 7 minutes somebody gets out of their car determines whether or not they ever come back to your church again. They haven't met the pastor, you, or seen the inside yet whatsoever. They're just walking across the parking lot. My brother taught me to give my all and to work hard. He'd come and get me and take me on visitation. Sometimes he'd come get me and let me drive the car on visitation, which is scary because I was only 12. But anyway, no, he'd come and get me and take me out, and I'd drive around for him. I didn't realize it then. I was just a 16, 17-year-old kid, thought it was really cool I got to drive. He was teaching me how to visit. And every now and then he'd say, okay, you talk this next time. You've seen me do it, you talk. I'm going to get a free meal at the end of this, okay. But he was teaching me to give my all. Do we do that with the kids that are here? Could I ask you a question? You're the older people. I can say that because I'm one of you. Do you know the kids here? Do you know who they are? We were seniors in high school, just had graduated. And we went down to Kings Island. Kings Island's sort of like Six Flags over Mid-America Amusement Park, just north of Cincinnati, Ohio. Spent a whole Saturday there. And we came out, we were getting on the bus, and we're fixing to leave to go back to the church and go home. And as we were coming out, 6 o'clock in the evening on a Saturday, Cheryl and I are walking through the little shops as you're coming up to the front gate, and we found this puppet. It's made by Pelham Puppets, an English company. It had a little rod, you could stick your hand up in it. A little thumb thing here, you could make the mouth move and turn it around. And then if you could hold it in this hand, you could stick your hand through, and your hand became the hand of the puppet, which really brought it to life. It's a cool-looking puppet. And it's $40. We didn't have $40. But when we got on the bus that night, we're sitting there, and Sarah and I are talking about this puppet. Boy, if we had this, we could do. Because we started a kids class on Sunday nights during the choir practice, keep the kids from getting in trouble. No one asked us to. I knew how much trouble I used to get in during choir practice, so let's help some kids out here. And we did stuff in junior church all the time, and boy, we're talking about all the stuff we could do with this puppet. One of the dear ladies of the church was sitting in front of us. She'd come along as a chaperone. Her name was Emma Sue Williams. And she turned around and she said, so you think you guys would really use it? And we were like, oh yeah, that would be so cool. And she handed us $40. She said, then go get it. I'm sure we looked like two of the craziest people in the world running back across this parking lot and trying to get in and get this thing and get back out there before the bus left. And I'm sure anybody watching us saw us run into that store and then come back out with this puppet. And you're like, those are a couple of morons right there, you know that? Full-grown adults running in there and grabbing that just to come out with a puppet. Well, we were so excited. That's almost 50 years ago now. I still have that puppet. He doesn't work anymore, but he sits on my desk at home to remind me where we started at. Mrs. Williams is almost 90 years old now. We were home here a few weeks ago and talking with my sister-in-law, and she said, she's over here in a nursing home. She said, if you guys are up this way and you've got some time, she would love to see you all. And she still talks about buying that puppet for you too. She gave us a chance to give her all. And all the things that we've done since then, Miss Williams has a part of that. I'm asking you, what have you done for these kids back here? Do you know their names? You see, I challenge you to get to know one of them and just start praying for them. Find out their name, find out what it is they do, find out what it is they like. Start praying for them. Bring them something every once in a while. Just encourage them to give their all. The world's got so much pulling them away, it sure wouldn't hurt for somebody in here to try to pull them in. and give them a chance to give their all. Third story I want you to see, go back to the Old Testament. 1 Samuel chapter 17. Very familiar story again. Everybody's heard it time and time again. It probably gets mentioned more than any other story in the entire Bible. Because anytime, especially this time of the year when your basketball season's really winding down, you're coming down to the Final Four, and there's always the Cinderella team or the David-Goliath team. They're always talking about that. We know the story of David and Goliath, and I'm not going to try to rehearse the story to you again tonight. I just want to share a little part of it to you that jumps out to me that may have never jumped out to you. In verse 44 of 1 Samuel 17, and the Philistines said to David, "Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the field." Then David said to the Philistine, "Thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield. But I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee and take thine head from thee, and I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day to the fowls of the air and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel." Anybody notice something unusual about that? Notice anything unusual about what he tells Goliath? Let's look at it again. This, verse 46, "This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee and take thine head from thee." Notice anything unusual there? Huh? He didn't have a sword. He's got a slingshot and 5 smooth stones. That's all he's got. And yet he tells Goliath, "I'm going to take your head off today." O-F-F off. It's gone today, dude. How? You going to take them rocks and lay still. It's going to be a while. He knew God was already going to give him Goliath, and he already knew, "I'm taking your sword and I'm going to cut your head off with it." Nanny, 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 boo-boo. It's not in the scripture, but it's there, I'm sure. Look out in the middle margins there. He's been offered armor. He can't do that. He's been criticized by his brothers. "You're just here. Who's watching the sheep back home?" He's been put down by the leader because Saul's camped at the back of the army instead of out front where he ought to be. And this is a guy who's almost 7 foot tall. He ought to be the dude going over fighting the giant. But he said, just as God delivered me from that lion and from that bear, he'll give me this giant today. And through faith, he knew he was going to cut his head off, and he don't have a sword. What kind of faith do you have? Last year, Cheryl and I had to make some decisions. We're 66 years old now. And in the words of Dr. Parker Daly, you show me a man who can do at 66 what he was doing at 26, and I'll show you a man who wasn't doing much at 26. We can't do the things we used to do. My brother told me one time, when you turn 50, things start to hurt. It may be something new every day, but things start to hurt. When you turn 60, if it doesn't hurt, it isn't yours. And when you turn 70, you're just glad you can still feel pain. It means you're still alive. Well, stuff hurts now all the time, and it's mine. Went to a doctor up in Columbus a few years ago, and he said, "Man, your lower back's all messed up." "Yeah." He said, "You're in constant pain." I said, "Oh, no, I'm not." He goes, "Oh, yeah, the body has a way of masking stuff." He said, "Lay down there on that table." And I laid down this table. He took this little metal thing, and he just went pop, 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 in about 4 places on my back. And he said, "Tomorrow, you'll feel the pain your body's been masking." If I could find that doctor today, I'd still kill him. For 2 weeks, I was like, oh. I'd like to have that little metal thing and pop it on his head. My back hurts so bad. He said, you'll see what it is your body's masking. And he said, there's absolutely nothing that we can do about it. It just is what it is. And he said, one of these days, your body will reach the point where it can't mask the pain any longer. Just letting you know. Oh, you're a plethora of good news, Doc. So the decision we had to make was, what are we going to keep doing? We used to do 45 to 47 weeks a year on the road. Well, we're getting to the point we can't do that anymore. We carry 2,500 pounds of equipment that we got to set up. We would put it up on a Sunday, take it down on a Wednesday, drive somewhere on Thursday, put it up on Thursday, take it down again on Sunday morning, drive somewhere Sunday afternoon, put it up again Sunday evening, take it back down again on Wednesday, and drive somewhere else again. All from the end of May through to about the end of September. No days off. And if there was a day off, it was because you were driving 12 hours and you just couldn't be there to start that day. We can't do that. She's got bad knee. She's ready for knee replacement. They tell me I'm out there too. What do we do? And in all the stuff that we talked about and all the opportunities that were open, the one thing that never ever crossed my mind, we're in trouble now. God's failed us. I really don't know what next year. We're taking it 1 year at a time now. I don't know what next year looks like now, but I'm not the least bit worried about it. Number one, I've never seen the righteous forsaken or his seed begging for bread. And number two, he said, don't lay up for yourself treasures here upon this earth where moth and rust doth corrupt. Lay up treasures in heaven. I was talking to him in a meeting here today with some of the staff. Whenever we're home now, you know what's really cool? Our pastor used to be a kid in my college class. Cheryl and I were in Wants to Die at Baptist Bible College with Ms. Johnson. So I took it and rewrote it, and we did it as a play at our church. And he got saved. Came to our college class. Used to call me up all the time on, hey, can we meet at Wendy's? I got some questions for you. And he'd have a whole list of Bible questions he'd want to ask and have me answer. Went with me on a mission trip to Mexico. All kinds of questions the whole way down, the whole way back. Started driving a bus for me in Awana. Ended up being the youth pastor at our church for 27 years, and now he's the pastor. Started as a kid in my college class. There's a praise team up there with about 16, 17 people in it. Any Sunday morning, 8 to 9 of those people are people that used to be in my children's ministry, either as kids or workers in our children's ministry. Our home church is where I was on staff as a children's pastor for 16 years. And now I get to see the fruit of that. I can't tell you how many missionaries we've run into out across the road that used to be a part of our children's ministry or that we had some type of influence in. At our home church, our daughter is now the music director. Here's 1,000 to 1,100 people on Sunday morning, and here's this little 4'11" mouth from the south up there with all this orchestra and everything that she's put them together and organized them, and they're singing and doing what they have to do. And she's got Daddy's old office now. Out of the 6 people that are on staff, 5 of them somehow were incorporated or a part of our children's ministry in some way, somehow, some shape, some form. And it's a blessing to go home and see all that and know that God fulfills his promises. And I don't have to worry about trusting him. I don't have to worry about just keep my faith in him. Have you got that faith that even though you don't have the sword in hand yet, you know you're still going to win the victory? Because that's what David had. I want to show you one last thing today, and we'll call it quits for the evening. Go back to the New Testament book of 1 Corinthians chapter 11. for lack of time, let's just jump down to verse 23. Paul is laying out here how the Lord's Supper and all that was put together there. But in verse 23, he says, "For I have received of the Lord that which I also delivered unto you, that the Lord Jesus, the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread, and when he had given thanks, he brake it and said, Take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. In the same manner also he took the cup when he had supped, saying, This cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye as often as you drink of it in remembrance of me." Now, hear me all the way through on this and don't run me out of here on a rail. What if we missed it? What if what Jesus was saying here wasn't really about taking the cup or eating the bread? What if what he was saying was, this bread that I've broken, every time you're broken for others, you do it in remembrance of me, because I'm fixing to be broken for you. Take, eat, and remember to be broken for others. What if, when he took that cup and said, as often as you do this, do it in remembrance of me, what if what he was saying was, not every time you drink this, but every time you're poured out, every time you're completely poured out, and you don't think you can go anymore, remember me. I'm about to be poured out for you. That's what I want you to do in remembrance of me. I want you to be broken. I want you to be completely poured out. Now, I'm not saying we do away with communion. I'm just asking you tonight, what if? Or let me ask it to you this way. When's the last time you were broken? We live in a messed up world today. Amen? When's the last time you were broken for someone? I mean broken. You couldn't eat. You couldn't sleep because your heart ached for them. When's the last time you were poured out for somebody? That you just said, hey, whatever it takes to reach them, I'm going to do that. I'm going to be poured out for them. I'm going to give my all to reach them. When? People tell me today, folks don't get saved like they used to. I don't believe that a bit more than a man in the moon. We've seen over 19,000 in the last 21 years make professions of faith in just what we're doing, all around the world. Folks still get saved, just like they always have. We just don't go after them like we used to. We think it might be socially unacceptable or socially awkward. It might put us in an uncomfortable situation. Those of you that know me know that since the age of 13, I've been doing illusions, magic tricks, whatever you want to call it. I love it because it just helps me to open up a conversation. As a 13-year-old kid, it helped a shy, stuttering boy come out of his shell. It was something cool I could do that people wanted to see again and again. There is a guy, you can go home and look this up on your computers or your smartphone. His name's Penn Jillette, P-E-N-N-G-I-L-L-E-T-T-E. He's one half of the Penn and Teller magical team, or if you see the show on TV, Fool Us, he's one of the guys on there, the big tall guy. Penn's got a video on there. And he's a devout atheist, or says he is. Anytime somebody tells me they're a devout atheist, the first thing that goes to my mind is, well, have you studied all the religions of the world and come to the conclusion that every one of them are wrong? Well, no. Well, then you're an idiot. You're not an atheist. You just decided you're not going to believe in anything. Okay? But he says he's a devout atheist, and I've not had a chance to talk to him personally, so we'll just take it at that. But he says this. He says, if you believe there's a God, and you believe there's a heaven, and you believe you know how to get to heaven, how to have everlasting life, but you think it would be socially awkward or unacceptable or whatever to tell somebody about that, he said, I have just one question. How much do you have to hate somebody to have that type of information but never tell them about it? If you really believe heaven exists, if you really believe there's a way to get to heaven, if you really believe that you know how to get to heaven, but you don't tell anybody, how much do you have to hate them to hold that information back? He said, if I saw a truck coming down the road out here and there's a kid out there playing, at some point in time, I'm going to tackle that child to keep him from being run over by that truck. And this is way more important than that. So I simply close with this thought tonight. How broken are we for people? Maybe I should put it this way. How much do we have to hate somebody to show up here Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, any other time the doors are open, carry this big Bible around with us, read it, memorize it, but never share it with anybody else? Maybe they ought to be broken for us. A lost man by the name of Ben Sixsmith wrote an article about 2-3 years ago. One of the guys up in the, what's that church out of Australia that now they have Hillsong. One of the pastors of one of the Hillsong churches up in New York had committed sin, fallen into sin, stepped down, messed his life up, lost his family. And this guy, Ben Sixsmith, is writing all these stories about this church, and he's just a lost guy, and Christianity in general. And at the end, he says, here is my conclusion. It seems very much to me today that the people in churches want to try really, really hard, and I'm paraphrasing now, I don't have it right here in front of me, but they want to try really, really hard to be like me. He said, when the fact of the matter is this, if you serve God and you serve a religion, then your religion, your Christianity ought to make me uncomfortable. It ought to make me want to strive to be like you, not you striving to be like me. Why is it today that all the Christianity that I see is the church trying to act like me instead of trying to teach me how to act like them? So I ask you, what are we doing? Are we trying to get them in here? Or are we trying to make them believe that we're just like them and it doesn't make any difference? Are we broken? Father, thank you today. God, I pray that you'll help us to answer some questions tonight. Lord, are we lifting you up? Lord, are we giving our all? Lord, are we trusting you for faith with impossible expectations, yet we believe you're going to supply? Lord, are we broken and poured out for you? And then based upon the answer to those questions, God, help us to get on our knees and get things taken care of so we can go outside these walls and make a difference by telling people about you. Amen.
It is a blessing to be able to be in church. But, many people tonight are sitting at home wondering how they could have some peace in their life. And they need what you have. They need what we have. They need Jesus. That's not a thing of pride on our part. It's just the fact that they need him. So thank you, Brother Steve, for sharing your heart with us tonight. And it touched my life and my heart. I know it probably touched yours. we're going to thank those who have been watching online by live stream. We hope you can come visit us in person this coming Lord's Day, and we're glad that you've shared this time with us. God bless you all. We want to share just a few prayer requests tonight. We have a prayer list that we've handed out, and several on the list. Our missionaries on the missions focus side of your prayer list are John and Olivia Solomon. Many of you remember them. They served here on staff and were as interns and did a great job with children. And so pray for them. They're working with people there, and in their letter they talk about having youth camps, and in South America it's summertime. They're in Chile, and so they've had youth camps and Bible schools going on, and school is getting ready to get back in session in March. So pray for them as they carry on their work there and starting their new work there in Chile. Also, we have those on our prayer list, those in long-term and care facilities and rehab. Many of you have prayed for them, and they're listed there for you. Also, and those in the bereaved column, pray for the Turner family. Denise's father passed and went to heaven.